Hello folks. You know, in 1977 I was a hardware support engineer for Burroughs Corporation. We made very large computers that were cooled with under the floor coolant pipes. We used large reels of tape and huge magnetic disks. It barely had the power of what we have today in our phones. Well, I just loved the technology, and you know, while I was working there I learned exactly how computers worked. And eventually Burroughs, the inventor of the adding machine, by the way, purchased Spare Univac, and they joined. And I remember having a contest for the name of the new company, and the winning name was Unisys. Well, as the computer manufacturing was getting more and more scaled down, Unisys scaled down the big machines to an area my wife managed called the Micro A, and they were desktop computers. And many of them you may have seen in the post offices. Well, at the time, I wrote an article in Model Aviation magazine on how to put half-rate switches in any transmitter. And not long after that, I got a call from Phil Kraft asking me to work in his Signature Series line, and I couldn't refuse. Well, as time went on, I was pretty impressed with my Atari computer, which was like the first one. It would run an RC simulator program called RC Aerochopper. It was by David Stern. And wow, it was just as good as it gets, and we were being finally able to fly something on the computer. It was great. And here you can see some of the amazing graphics. At that time, Dave Robinger and I were busy with the design and operation of the Hyperfly. While we were doing that, we got our first computers. And mainly it was to run the RC program, because there was no internet then, and the computer speeds were pretty slow. They were 386 CPU, and we had very little RAM. We grew and learned, though, all with those first programs and the first search engines, you know, ICU and Skype, AOL, Windows 3.0, 3.1, Windows for workgroups, Windows 95, 98, Vista, XP, Win 7, and now Windows 8 with more to come. It's just amazing, the technology, and we just kept building and learning as they come. This computer that I'm making this video on right now is one I built. You know, we saw all the cool programs being born, like Word, Excel, Paint. And speaking of word processing, I still have my Brother word processing typewriter. It used a 3.5-inch floppy, it had memory in it, and word processing. It would do auto spell correct and everything too. Quite amazing at the time. All the kind of different graphics, the dancing baby was the first GIF. We learned all these things, how to make them. Then other manufacturers began making products and software. One of the most favorite and used by producers like me is the Adobe Photoshop. And you know, there have been many versions, and I've got them all from the beginning to now, and that anything can be easily done with it. It's just amazing and very popular. For quick stuff, I use Paint. I like that too. Well, since those early days, since Dave and I began building our own computers, and even after that, we had 14.4 modems on up to a whopping 56K. We were trained by trial and error, and those computers crashed all the time. There was no tools but DOS commands to try to fix them. We were on the phone a lot to each other. I called Dave a lot. He had very good experience with DOS. And so much different than today with System Restore and Reliable. We used 5-inch, then 3.5-inch floppy disk to load and save programs, because there were no CDs existed. And I remember even having to plug those 3.5 floppies into a Macintosh I had with the little black and white screen many times, and look at that little happy face as it loaded a program. Well, the main reason I mention this is to mention the fact of how I love the evolution of the different RC simulator programs. Many of my longtime subscribers know that I've done many reviews on most of them. You can search my channel and find them on just about all of them. But still, I go back to my Aerofly, and it's made in Germany, and as far as I'm concerned, I like it best for being able to get good practice. First of all, I like it because there are no imaginary things hanging in the air. The contests are all contests that actually could be done in real life flying, like the balloon bust, or the limbo, or the pylon race. And so, for example, in the balloon bust, you can create buoyancy, up or down, whether they'll just hover there, the speed, the balloon size, colors, the whole thing. It's really fun, and it's good practice, and it's a whole lot harder than you think too. Also, the interface to change the planes, the flying sites, etc. is really neat. You just right-click anywhere on the screen and you get the menu. Well, next, I like the fact that I can plug in 2 RC controllers and fly with another person sitting here with me, as Jeff and I do a lot. Or fly online with the folks with their names all next to their airplanes, like the radar screens, transponders in the tower. Those can be turned on or off. I always have them on because it doesn't bother me. I'm watching my plane mostly when I'm flying, and when I want to watch theirs, I can land and click next to their name, and then I'm watching them fly. It's really great. Well, I was flying with a fellow called Heli Addict last week, a good helicopter pilot, by the way. He asked me why it was so windy. I usually set the wind to be gusty at 15 to 20 miles per hour, and I have it vary by 20 degrees either way down the runway. So it's pretty good practice. And since it's so close to real flying to me, that's what I told him back. I fly real airplanes here in the Midwest, and it's almost always windy, and not steady California wind like I used to fly in out there. To me, one of my favorite things is to turn on the wind and experiment with the planes. It's fun. So this is the kind of fun that I'm talking about if you're watching this. And for those who ask me also why I like it so much, is because it gives me the best practice. In fact, if you practice a lot and fly thumbs, you know, I fly the left stick pinched because you need the control for helicopter 3D, and the right thumb I use the thumb. But after hours of flying, you might like to do what I did. I popped on this eraser. It gives you a good grip, and it stops grinding holes in your thumbs. I love to turn up the wind and fly. It's like it is in real life. And if you're an outdoor RC pilot like me, you're going to praise the sim as being as good as it is in real life. You know, this is very good practice for me, and you got to know that if you've never flown a real airplane, you wouldn't know if the sim is any good or not. You know, all the people that fly the sims in the kiosks in the hobby stores, they don't have anything to compare it to if they've never flown a real airplane. Well, I have, and that's why I like this. Well, thanks a lot for watching, folks, and if you get a chance, come fly with us. Happy flying.